Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the By Faith podcast. I am your host. My name is Elizabeth Davis, and today I have a very special guest. We are going to be welcoming my friend Vanessa Johnson, and she is here and she's ready to go. So let's add her to the stage one moment. Hello, Vanessa.
Hello, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
I did bring a little guest to the party. You know, I can't do a video without LaCroix. So, and
No.
you know what's so stupid on my part is this morning I was in a bit of a rush and I made a coffee and I did not close my refrigerator door all the way after I put my milk in it. So this isn't very cold, so I have to put it over ice, and that's like my least favorite way to drink it, but gotta do what you gotta do. Hmm?
I swear there was another video. Take your sip. I swear there was another video. You said your dad left the fridge.
No, I did it. He
Oh,
does that all the time. And I said, I am my father's daughter. Yes. So this
got
is
it.
not the first offense. I'm a repeated offender, apparently. But my refrigerator, I guess, is a good problem. I feel like I just have a lot of stuff in there. And, like, I don't know. It needs cleaned out probably. But, anyways. So, so we have quite the story to bring to the audience. And I am so excited that it's not exactly good news, but I am excited to bring truth and awareness to this story. And it caught my attention because you shared a video about the Roy's report, and all I saw was the title of your video. And I thought to myself, well, that's really interesting. I'm going to have to watch that. So the next morning I went on and I clicked your video about the Roy's report, and I was like, what is happening? And even though I had no idea, I couldn't follow it completely. I was kind of like trying to figure out who was who, and the timeline wasn't, I couldn't quite figure out the timeline since I didn't know who was who. And so I went back to your first video, and because I was very invested at that point, I was like, I need to know who these people are. So I go back to your first video, which you did about 2 weeks ago, right?
Yes.
And the story is about the family of Wes Campbell, and Wes Campbell is the owner of Newsboys.
Right.
And we know that Newsboys has been in the news a lot lately because of the Michael Tate scandal and all of the harassment and SA and the R word that he has allegedly committed. And there's a lot of evidence about that. So I think that's kind of what drew me to it, because obviously Michael Tate is involved in some darkness, and there's just no way that everybody else didn't know. And I think you even mentioned somebody in your video that said there's no way Wes Campbell, the owner of Newsboys, didn't know what was going on. So that led me to believe that there was probably some more sinister things going on beneath the surface. And as I watched your video, I was like, this is absolutely crazy. So Wes Campbell and his family are being sued. Am I
Right.
correct? Okay. So
Right.
do you want to talk about how you came across this story and why it caught your attention and how it's kept your attention? And the floor
Yeah.
is yours. As long as you'd like to talk about it, go for it.
Okay. So going back to there was a Roy's Report article and this was after the Michael Tate scandal. They had done a couple of articles about Michael Tate, and probably your viewers know about that because I'm sure you talked about it. I've talked about it. And there were several articles. And then I did a video and I talked about, are there going to be charges? And this is even going back even further, about a month ago. So even going back further than the one I did 2 weeks ago. And I did a video, are there going to be charges against Michael Tate, either criminal or civil? Because based upon the information, I anticipated that would be the next step. I understood that the reporter, the investigative journalist, she had been researching this for about 2.5 years. So it's not like this is anything new. So that's what I thought that was going to happen, because those individuals, those victims of Michael Tate had already come out. So I was expecting that. Well, lo and behold, there was an article at the end of June by the same reporter, Jessica Morris, and it talked about a lawsuit that was filed, and it wasn't against Michael Tate, it was against the Campbells and two individuals with the last name of Harrison. So the Campbells that were sued, I have the pleading right here, and it's Randall Schrum, he is the plaintiff, and it's against Colin Campbell, Nancy Campbell. They are married and they have children, adult children. Mark Harrison, Aaron Harrison, Evangeline Johnson. She's actually a Campbell. She's a daughter of Colin and Nancy. Wesley Eugene Campbell, and Rockland Campbell. So those are 7 individuals that are named. So Colin and Nancy are the parents, and Wes Campbell is the owner of the Newsboys, and he is their son. Evangeline Johnson, she goes by Vange, I guess, and Rockland Campbell is a son. The Harrisons I don't know much of. Okay, so I'm trying to do this based upon what I knew at the time, because since this has happened, I've done a lot of research and I've talked to people. So when I did the video in regard to the complaint, the civil suit, I really didn't focus on the article by the reporter at Roy's Report. I really just delved into the complaint because I'm an attorney. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at the chart, the complaint, and what has been asserted and alleged and the facts. So I did that, but I did review obviously the article, and it was kind of crazy. A lot of moving parts, a lot of allegations. And so I didn't think much of it. There was someone who reached out to me after I did the video who said that she knew the Shrums personally, and she thanked me for doing the video. And really and just encouraging and just saying it was so helpful. And Elizabeth, you know me, I always say, if I can help one person, if it's encouraging, what have you, that's all I need to do. And it was kind of like, okay, that's it. And really in my thought process, I was thinking, well, perhaps if something else comes out, maybe there's going to be a lawsuit against Michael Tate. I'll talk about that. But I didn't think anything really of it until July 22nd, which was this past week. There was a new article by the same reporter, investigative journalist, Jessica Morris. And the article really caught my attention because I read it in the morning. I read it on Facebook really quickly because I was getting ready for work. And I didn't read any of the comments. And I was confused because there was an allegation that the plaintiff, Randall Schrum, allegedly had abused his child. But interestingly, that component was alleged. Randall Schrum was saying, yeah, part of the harassment is they're calling DCF on me and saying that I abuse my children, but I don't. And I was like, this is completely opposite of what they did before. And so, of course, I led to believe, all right, where are they getting their information from? I'm reading through the article. It doesn't cite anybody. And then it says, oh, the pendulum has swung back hard against the petitioner, the plaintiff. And then it says, they're shooting back and saying these things about the complaint. But there was nothing in that article that did that. Right. So that's what I'm looking for as an attorney. So I'm like, where is this going? And then suddenly it ends. And then there's a correction at the end of the article saying, oh, come to find out, I'm just rephrasing. What we said in the beginning, that's still there. That's not really true. Well, that bothered me because why would you keep it in there? Well, come to find out after, so I went ahead and I reached out to the writer of the article. And just so you know, today is Sunday. What's the date? July 27th. I've never heard from her. All right. She has not responded. And
that's really strange to me that she hasn't responded. And it's kind of like, what do you think? I know what I think, but I want to know what you think as an attorney. I don't know. I want to say, have you ever seen something like this happen where someone's writing an article and then they basically essentially almost change sides? Because the first one sounded like, from the Roy's Report, the first article sounded like they were simply just reporting the facts. They linked the complaint, right?
Yes.
Go and read it. And the second article, they did not link the complaint, right?
They didn't link the motion that was filed on behalf of 6 of the 7 defendants. So
okay.
Remember in the beginning, I read Campbells and Harrisons, some of those names. All of those defendants apparently share the same attorney who filed a motion to dismiss. Wes Campbell has his own, and I've learned that he has not even been served yet with the complaint. So,
whoa,
he hasn't been served yet. Yeah. So you get a process server. They apparently haven't been able to serve him. So that's interesting in and of itself. But yeah, I mean, Go ahead, Elizabeth. I'll just let you.
No, that I'm just listening because there's so many twists and turns, and
There are.
feel like
Yeah,
I feel like
and yeah, that did catch my attention because just like you noticed, it did take a different twist and turn, right?
right.
And but yeah, in all fairness, you want to get the other side. And that's what I thought. I thought, okay, perhaps they're getting the other side. So where is are those quotes? And you don't have to as a journalist say, but you should say where, we've talked to people. I mean, I don't know the rules of journalism. I'm not going to purport that I do, but it left a lot to me as a reader, as a viewer, wanting. I didn't understand it. And I certainly didn't understand why that one statement was still in there when you have a correction way in the back when people don't always look at that. And it was confusing and placing them in a false light. So that was another thing because as an attorney, I'm, keyed off to if there's any area of liability, my gosh, why would you want that for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, okay. Okay. So who is Randy Schrum? He is an elder of the church
He left.
that he
Yes.
left.
Yeah.
Okay. And
So the
the
church Hilltop Fellowship.
okay,
Um,
Hilltop Fellowship. And
and
that's where Wes Campbell and his family went to church as well.
right.
His father, Wes's father, uh,
And
his mom and dad are like the head pastors of that church.
they,
Colin and Nancy. I'm
yes.
trying to keep the name straight. I didn't even write that down, and I remembered.
No, good, good. But that's
um,
true. I mean, yeah, you need an organizational chart here. Very similar to the Brady Boyd thing with all, Jimmy Evans and all these people. It was very similar. But this one caught my attention going back to that because I haven't answered that because of that newer article, but it was also me praying and being led to go deeper. And I was like, that whole day, Wednesday, I didn't talk to I don't know anybody. I'm just like, this is weird. All I had is the complaint, the articles. That's all I'm going by. Right. And then the one woman who thanked me for having that first video. And I didn't think anything of it. Well, I don't know her. I don't know anybody. And I'm just praying all day. And I, yeah, it was a bizarre day. And so it wasn't until the next day that I started talking to people. They were reaching out on Messenger. Yeah, several people. I think it was Wednesday night. Yeah, going into Thursday. But yeah, I was like, this is this. Now I see, Lord, why you've got me on this. There's a lot to it. And so with the article in and of itself, and then with the information. So I can tell you that, yes, sitting here today, I've talked to several people. They will remain anonymous for sensitive reasons and most importantly, safety. This is very different from anything I've ever reported on because of the safety nature of it, that aspect of it.
so is it believed that some of the defendants are dangerous? Is that what
Yes,
people are concerned about that
yes,
you've spoken with? And
yes,
what it is it because of okay, so we know there's a lot of different in the complaint, there's a lot of different scenarios and things that has painted out of the plaintiff, things that have happened to him. He's essentially a victim of
yes.
his church's family, his pastor's family, which is wild. I can't imagine my pastor and his family harassing me to the
Right.
point where I have to take legal action.
And move again and hide your family. And so let's get to why this happened. Okay. Why this started. It wasn't just this rift that just suddenly happened. It was a biblical process where there was, I'm just going to say, bad behavior on the part of Vange Johnson, who is a daughter of Colin and Nancy Campbell, sister to Wes. Okay. So she was a part of the church and there she's married and has children. And there's just behavior that the elders, including Randall Schrum, they were very concerned with because it affected the church. Not only this church that only had like maybe 78 members, but they also had a far reach effect because they would hold these camp meetings where 1,000 people would come. I mean, the ministry went far and wide and has been in existence. People knew them, the Campbells, for decades. I guess they came from either New Zealand or Australia. I get it. I don't know which first, whatever, but I guess they lived there. But so there's a far-reaching effect that the behavior that's not being dealt with could affect other church members, their family members, and then the rest of these people that they have relationship with that goes to this church. And it was to the extent that it was so concerning that it ended up, they brought it to Colin's attention. He would be on board, but then he wouldn't. He would take the side of his daughter and just didn't want to deal with something that is unbiblical. It's just when you have a situation, right, where this is a common thread, what we're seeing. This epitomizes what we've been seeing with, for me, I started with Daystar. I've seen it with Daystar. I've seen it with Faith Life Church. Those two, they tie in incredibly so. You've got a family complex, enterprise, group, whatever you want to, organization, business, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to refrain from church. I mean, in this one, it's Fellowship, Hilltop Fellowship Church. Yes, it's a church. And when you have the family so ingrained in it and that are making those decisions, and I said this in one of my videos, you're a pastor, you're following God, right? Your parishioners think you are, but you just throw everything that you know biblically out the window because you don't want to deal righteously with an adult child of yours that is not acting righteously, biblically, or in obedience to the Lord. It's harmful. It's harmful. They're not wanting to deal with it. And instead of dealing with it and protecting the church, who is your flock, you're defending the bad actor. Have we not seen it with Faith Life Church? Have we not seen it with Jonathan Lamb? Oh my gosh. But this is on steroids, because as I was talking to one individual who I've talked to probably 3+ hours by now, it's more than that, it dawned on me, this is what it looks like when you continue to dismiss it. It now implodes, right? We didn't see that with Daystar. Jonathan got out quickly. We didn't really see that with Faith Life Church. There's still members of the church. We saw the implosion here. There's no members of the church. It's not a church split.
Because everybody left, right?
Left.
What was what caused everyone to leave this church?
The mob on the church. So save the pitchfork. So when I'm reading this complaint, that's what I'm picturing is, you're having service and all of a sudden the doors open and it's like the mob comes in with the torches and the pitchforks and we're here and
literally.
That's what I picture. But so I've talked to everybody and I'm being facetious with the pitchforks. Everybody.
Right. Well,
but it's worse than what I thought. All right. So it's described in the complaint as this mob coming in and essentially attacking verbally, not physically, but intimidating and causing such fear and strife to the parishioners and their family. Their children were there. So everything that I've read has been confirmed, but also heightened and enhanced because of more details that I've received. So picture this. They're having the service and then this mob breaks in. It's being headed by this man named Rockland. They refer to Rock, not our brother Rock Leach, everybody. It's this man named
Rock.
Rock. All right, not our brother. So it's head by him. He is the son of Colin and Nancy, brother to Wes and Vange Johnson. And he has all these other family members with him. And they're just yelling and threatening people. And just, if you don't do what I say, it's not going to go well for you. I mean, in front of everybody. This is
all because Vange was in sin, right? And they wouldn't deal with it.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to say that. I would say that based upon what I have heard. But it's
because they didn't want to deal with Vange's
very
bad behavior. not
Yeah.
so great behavior, what, however you would like to phrase it, because the complaint
Un-
didn't really go into that detail, right? Of what,
right. It
okay.
and the unbiblical response of Colin, because he wouldn't address it. And here's another thing. That it reminds me of this. You're gonna read between the lines. We all heard this if you've watched like the news. John MacArthur recently passed, right? And Julie Roy's, she's done a couple articles and even videos about there's a situation. I don't know if you know about this, Elizabeth, but let me just share it like this. So there was an instance in John MacArthur's church where there's a woman who came to him because she was being abused by her husband. And what did he do? He said, "You must stay with him." "Well, he's abusing me and my children." "Well, you must stay with him." So think along those lines, okay? So if that's the case, and you're not dealing with it, and you're putting people in harm's way, then it escalates, and you're not dealing with it. And this is what I see the end result of not dealing with something you are supposed to deal with, and you're trying to protect the bad actor, happens to be your blood, and to the detriment of your entire church family and their families. This is what we see. This is what has happened here. And it's blown up to the extent where, instead of admitting, okay, I did a wrong, what can we do to reconcile? No. Instead, this is the key, because this is coming from people that actually saw what happened at that church with the mom. Instead of Colin taking charge, he said, "Thank you, Rock, for defending me."
What? I didn't know that part.
Well, it's not in there, but that's what I've learned.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So what
Okay.
church? We're not
Why
saying,
why would you defend your sister if she's in the wrong
well,
like
here,
that?
well, Elizabeth, it's what we've all been talking about, right? All of our podcasts are about you. And I've said this on mine. You can't rationalize with the irrational. So in our mind, this is right and this is wrong, but and we're running off that grid. But when you
In my family, we say you can't argue with crazy. That's how we phrase it.
yep,
Your way's a little nicer, but I am who I am.
I have a video on that. It's the Patricia King one that's titled that. You cannot rationalize with the irrational. You cannot. I have no desire to try to talk to people that are so off the reservation, so to speak. You really can't. And that's, what it sounds like to me from talking to people that were witnessing this, that I was like, you were hitting your head against a wall. It was never going to get anywhere. It was never going to get anywhere. And unfortunately, because these people all left, they got offended. They were angry. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe perhaps it affected the church, Colin and Nancy financially. I don't know. I didn't get into that. There's a lot I didn't. I'm just surmising. It's my opinion. Maybe that's what angered them. I don't know. But, then, and they won't stop. And so they're taking these steps against this family who has left, and all of the church members has left. They've all left. They don't have a church anymore, to my knowledge. Somebody can correct me. It sounds to me, from what I've learned, it's Colin and Nancy, and then Nancy's sister. That's what's left.
That's not really a church anymore. That's more of just like a family get together.
Yeah.
So there was a really concerning scenario. I think that this was in your video that is in the complaint where they called CPS, the
Middle.
Campbells, right? Called CPS on Randall Schrum and his wife, which they call it something different in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
DCS, I think it is, something along that. So they call the Child Protective Services essentially. They
Somebody
don't
does.
know that.
Exactly who does. But yeah, somebody calls, and assuming, yeah.
Yes, so we don't know who it is. Okay, so we don't know who calls, but then they basically storm the house, the
And
officers. I mean, Randy does let them in.
yeah,
Randall, same person. He goes
right.
by Randall's his long name, legal name, Randy for short, right?
Yes.
Randy opens the door, the officers go in, they start shining the flashlights in the kids' bedrooms to make sure at 3 a.m, mind you,
I
that
know.
everything is good to go.
How does that happen?
And why at 3 a.m? Like, you couldn't wait till breakfast? You
You
know?
what kind of pull do you have to get all those cops there? what kind of pull do you have? That's my first question, to get those cops there. That's my
Yeah,
question.
and like who, like
At
someone on
that,
the inside almost.
yeah. What was it that you said to them to get them there? Because it would, to me, in my experience, it would have to be an imminent threat. Somebody
Yeah, and
going on,
what is it that they're telling them? Like, that they have to storm your home
you
at
have
3 in the
to,
morning.
yeah,
Like, you have to go get them right now, their lives are in danger, but then you get there and everything's,
they're,
Randy, they're at peace, the kids are asleep. Well,
yeah,
they were until the officer shines the flashlight in the kids' eyes, poor children,
they're,
they're probably traumatized.
yep.
And then after the officers decide, "Hey, everything's good here, we're gonna get going," isn't it that Randy and his wife look out and see figures running away in the woods that were not the cops? It was like a group of people watching it go down, is what it
Right.
sounded like to me.
Sounded like to me too. And then their tires being slashed.
Oh, the tires being slashed. Yeah, that he went out and his tires were slashed.
On
So
two different,
how did they get the tire slashed before the officers got there or in between? You know what I mean? It's like maybe one of I'm not going to speculate, but I'm not going to add to the story. But if you have someone on the inside that's an officer or someone in the government authority position, I mean, who knows what they could have done, what they have access to, It's just so crazy to me. That was the craziest part of what you were discussing that was in the complaint. And then, at that point, you do wonder if your life is in danger.
well, the wife, Randall Schrum's wife, is pregnant. It says it in the complaint. So he had to put her in an undisclosed location. I mean, how terrible is that? And what stress on your body?
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to
Pregnancy is already hard enough from what I've heard. I've never been pregnant, but
be,
I've heard it's it can be rough at times. And oh, there's something I was going to say and then I wanted to make sure everybody knew I've never been pregnant before and I forgot. I forgot what I was going to say. Um
but yeah, those
so
that are scary, the tires,
yeah,
it's the ongoing harassment. I mean, it's all in that complaint, and it is linked in that very first article from the end of June. And my one, I know I've linked it, and I've linked the articles in a recent video that I had. So if you're interested, but you can just go on Roy's report and find those, excuse me, those articles that were done. And the complaint is very telling because it includes the facts that support, sorry, my hair's in my mouth, that support each of the offenses that are alleged, the counts. They call it counts in the civil arena. So there's 9 counts, and it's, defamation, it's trespass, there's a bunch. I mean, conspiracy.
I have a question about civil versus criminal.
Okay.
Why is it that Randy filed a civil suit rather than a criminal complaint or a police report that then, you know
I think he has filed a police.
okay.
I
Mm.
think in there, or somebody's told me, but they move slow sometimes. I
Yeah.
don't know if what's going on, but what's interesting too. I was thinking about this. I know this is kind of off topic, but regular media, the mainstream media, they have sound bites or whatever, and they're not covering things like this. And
Right.
that's where we come in. The podcasters. We're talking about things like this that are interesting to us. It might not be interesting to all of our viewers, but it was something that caught my attention. I do think that, if there are reports that were made to the local sheriff's department, there might be charges, most certainly, if they find out who did it. I don't know, but hey, stay tuned. I mean, things develop all the time.
So, and if it moves slow, that's because there's a whole other, so there's a civil process, which is completely different. I just kind of want to make sure the viewers understand it's completely different than a criminal process, even though in our minds, when I'm reading this complaint or when we're talking about it, to me, I'm thinking this is criminal like behavior.
Oh, it is.
It's like the mafia. We've already said this, the mafia, the mob, gangsters, like it all kind of to me falls into the same funnel and it all comes out as nuts. You know what I mean? It's crazy to me that we are using, not we, but there are people that used Christ's name to manipulate people and harass them and commit crimes against them. And I love our justice system. I love being an American. I'm very fascinated by the justice system. Of course, we don't always get the outcome that we want when we are the defendant or the victim or the plaintiff or you know whoever you might be, that your friend is in trouble and you want them to get off and they don't, and you don't think they're guilty, whatever. I love the legal process. It's been very interesting to me. When I worked at the courthouse, I worked there for 3 years. I was a deputy clerk. I worked in the clerk's office, and I will tell you what, because we were inside the municipal court, the local court, the Canton Municipal Court, and there was not a day that went by in those 3 years that was boring. And because I'm so interested in that process, and I think that's part of the reason why this case caught my attention, because I see this injustice happening. And when you file a civil suit versus criminal, isn't it that they would have to have warrants from the judge, and then it has to go through the prosecutor's office? At least that's how it was on the local level. And then the other thing too that I just remembered when I said that, didn't they file this on a federal level? Isn't this a federal civil suit?
It is.
So how was he able to file a federal lawsuit versus state or local? How does that is it the types of charges
I
or
can't.
counts?
I don't know why it's federal. I honestly don't. This could also come in through the state, because
Okay.
the motion to dismiss that was filed by 6 of the 7 defendants is trying to kick it down to the state. I'm not sure if somebody lives out of state, if that's the thing, because if it was a jurisdictional issue and they're trying to bring them in, it might have to be federal if they're out of that state.
Okay.
I just don't know.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but that motion is trying to kick it to state level.
Right. Because in order for it to go to state level, it has to be dismissed on the federal level, so then it can basically go downwards.
Going on. One's going to have jurisdiction. You can't have both.
Right. It's kind of like when you're charged with a felony and a misdemeanor, most of the time they combine them. Well, it depends.
Different misdemeanors plus a felony,
Right. But don't they usually just go with the highest charge? I'm so rusty. Oh my God.
So
when they're sentencing you, I can't remember.
So as a prosecutor, if people don't know, I used to be a prosecutor. So I would charge whatever crimes I could charge, whatever the facts are presented, and then you work with the crimes that could be charged. There could be a load of charges that you file, and the elements are made up by the facts of the case. When you get to a plea bargain where you're trying to reach a plea agreement, meaning just a resolution of the issues, in civil, it's you go to mediation, you resolve the issues, and you might do a lump sum settlement, and it's money damages. But in criminal, it's your life. You could go to jail. Yes, there could be some fines that you pay. They're usually attached to some of those crimes. But you could reach an agreement with the prosecutor and say, okay, I'll plead to this crime, and this crime, and then we're going to dismiss the others, and everybody's in agreement, meaning the victims as well, and you can go forward in that way. But yes, you do try to charge the highest crime. It's not like you're doing that out of spite. It's just whatever that crime is, because there has to be justice for the victims when you're dealing with criminal law. So the victims, say somebody, red-rummed their loved one, you're going to go for a murder 1 charge if possible. And then if not, you look at murder 2.
Gotcha. Okay. So now we kind of have that laid out, because I don't really know as much about the civil side and the criminal side. I'm just so fascinated by that. So this civil suit, there's 9 different counts. They're being sued in 9 different ways, right? So there's 9 different things that Randall is saying you did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So, and you can also sue multiple people at one time, which is also something I didn't really know. It makes sense. Both those things make sense now that I'm seeing this, but we're seeing like with Robert Morris and Tom Cassie, it's criminal. This is civil, so it's different, and it's going to look different when it goes through court. So they filed a motion to dismiss. If that's granted, and then it goes to the state level, or even if it doesn't, if the judge blocks the dismissal or whatever, what is next? What happens next?
Well, the motion to dismiss was filed, but that's really procedurally, I would expect that. I highly doubt it would be granted. I highly doubt that. But in the meantime, the plaintiff, through his attorneys, he files a response, an objection and response, whatever they call it. I mean, I do that all day long, every day. So you file a response, and then, if it's not likely going to be dismissed, maybe one or two could be dismissed, or, and then at that point, then the plaintiff can amend their filing, and they can amend the complaint and add on more stuff, if, more things that happened and more defendants. Because if you look at the complaint, it has the list of defendants that are named, and then it says, and John and Jane Doe's numbers 1 through 20. That leaves that open so that they can add in more defendants.
Wow, I didn't know that. So that they can basically add in more people that they think need to be also liable for what they've done.
That's not unusual, because when you go through discovery and you start taking depositions and you start getting information, so-and-so's name could come up and you're like, that person did that? Oh, let's add them to the suit.
So how does discovery and depositions work? How are they able to file that? Do they just go around and talk to people and say, hey, what do you know about this? What happened here? Like almost like finding witnesses and asking them, or what's the process of discovery and depositions?
In the civil side, they're going to start with the depositions of the actual defendants. So if the plaintiff side, Randall Schrum's attorneys, they notify, the other party has to cooperate. This is what I do every day. Okay. So, but I do it on the defense, right? So say the person that's suing my client, they want to take the deposition of my client. We have to agree to that. We coordinate a date and time. I want to take the deposition of the plaintiff. We coordinate a date and time, and then we start discovery. I issue subpoenas if I'm interested in getting records from this person. Throughout discovery, I might find a person that I want to depose that person. That person might need to be subpoenaed because the party, they have no relation to the parties. The parties are the plaintiffs and the defendants. Here it's one person suing 7 people. So those parties are going to depose each other through their attorneys. Does that make sense?
So they're gonna what does depose mean? I don't think I know what that word means. What's deposition mean?
That's great. All right. So that's where you take testimony under oath. All right. So
gotcha. Okay. Cool.
All day long, every day. So
okay.
Deposition, let me just give you an example for me. All right. I take the deposition of an injured worker, right? So the court reporter will swear them in. They affirm they're going to tell the truth. I say, all right, we're here. And I introduce myself. I'm here to take your deposition. I'm going to ask you questions. If you don't understand the question, tell me. I'll say it in a different way. I want you to understand the question before you respond. If you think you might know what I'm going to say, don't interrupt me. Wait until I finish the question before you respond. We have to have a clear question, clear answer. Also, please focus on the question that I'm asking. Don't answer something I'm not asking. Don't try to read between the lines and think I'm asking something I'm not. Just answer the question. Sometimes I don't need a whole bunch of information. I'll ask follow-up questions, or your attorney will ask questions. If you answer, you must answer orally and verbally, meaning say it out loud and in the form of words. Don't grunt, point, shake your head. This is the start of my deposition. All right. So now let's get into it. All right. So state your name for the record. And then I go into everything I need to know. Objections can be made by the other side, but they can't stop me from asking the question in a deposition. It's not like you're watching Law and Order. Objection, Your Honor, and then the judge will rule from the bench. It's not that. So when we're in a deposition, you go through. I do this all the time because most of the depositions I do, yes, it's an injured worker, but it's also, I do expert testimony. So it's a doctor. And a lot of times doctors get frazzled, if the other side is objecting. And I'm like, doctor, just relax. It's okay. They're just making an objection for the record so that if they want to file a motion with the court, then the judge will rule on that. They're just making it for the record. So just continue to answer the question. And then they get frazzled and they're like, well, what was the question? Because there's an objection. But this is the process that we do. I do it day in, I do it day out, constantly.
It would
So
be so cool to see you in the courtroom. When I would docket and I'd be in the courtroom, it was so hard for me to pay attention because I just wanted to watch the attorneys and the judge and the defendants interact. And oh my gosh, that'd be so cool to see you do that. Like, I'm just picturing it while you're, stating your process. So that's really interesting how we could see something along those lines happen in this case. So thank you. That makes much more sense.
watch the Johnny Depp trial at all? It was a civil case.
Yes, I did not. I would just read about it on X. So I would scroll and read the drama, or my mom would, because there was a lot that happened. So but I didn't understand the legal proceeding as well as I would a criminal legal proceeding. Like civil to me is just, that's the only civil trial that I ever really even heard of, like getting to the level that it did. So, I'm just much more familiar with that, I think, criminal, because I have seen more of that, me personally. But this civil suit to me, it just seems like very criminal like. It's just the
It has,
way that
for
what's
sure,
that?
has criminal elements underlying.
Yeah.
And some of the counts, going back to what you said, you're like, okay, so this count has this evidence. Well, you can have multiple counts that they're using the same evidence,
So
right?
you're like committing multiple wrongs in one situation.
Well, for instance, defamation. When you have a defamation lawsuit, you'll always see, well, not always, but you'll often see false light, because that's the lesser. So you've got the defamation, and then you'll see false light, because if it doesn't meet the criteria, there's more criteria for defamation. It might meet false light. So all of the same elements, all of the same facts are still in there to meet those elements of those charges, each one.
Okay. Wow. So this is going to be so interesting to see it play out, and to see, is it going to get more intense? Is there going to be more things that come out? Is the complaint going to be amended, like you said? And are we going to see more defendants added in? I mean, it to me, like, just makes me wonder what else has happened. And I think about, like,
Right?
say
I
that
mean,
again.
there could be a resolution and it
There could
stops.
be, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we pray for that, because this is horrible to see, right? You want it to end. I mean, the people that I've talked to, they're like, this is horrible that this is happening. It's
Oh,
horrible.
it's absolutely horrible, for sure. And I think you don't want to see this happen in the body of Christ. It's highly advised that we don't have to file a suit against each other. But when you are being abused and harassed and manipulated, and your character is being completely annihilated because someone just simply has it out for you, at that
That's,
point, it's like, and you've
yeah,
tried to do everything biblically,
yeah,
like we already talked about at the beginning of the video. I
yeah.
mean, they
Matthew 18 times 100, right? Matthew 18 times 100.
they did the
Every
Jesus math. They did the 70 times 7 with this group of people,
yeah,
and they still would not.
no way to, they won't have it. They want their way. When you have people that are operating, and then there's a question whether they're really a brother and a sister, right? You have to question that.
Right.
See that, because we share that with when we talk about Daystar and Faith Life Church. It's the same premise. We have to question: did they know Christ at some point? We want to believe yes. At some point, did they take a wrong turn? Like,
Yeah.
I can clearly see it, because I've been reporting on Faith Life Church. There's nothing biblical with the behavior that we're seeing with Gary and Drenda, how they defend their son, who allegations are that they knew that he was abusing children, that they knew that, right? And they still have a church. there's a great falling away from that church, but it's still in operation and they're business as usual, ha ha ha, laughing, doing podcasts. Accusers of the brethren are coming out. It's so ridiculous. Accusers of the brethren, the people that have tried and tried and tried 100 times over. I am seeing that here in this case like never before. So, the Lance Walnos of the world that would try to come out and say something about Randall Schrum. Shut up. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, because the defendants are the ones causing strife. It's strife, Lance. That they're causing strife. They're walking into the church
They are, but
and disrupting the service.
The plaintiff is the bad guy, to Lance Walno and all those people.
And it's like, how though? Like, do you read anything? Like, do you educate yourself, or do you just like that person, so you just, oh, they're cool. I'm gonna tell you something.
Oh, yep.
My best friend, and I've talked to her about this because she knows everything about Daystar. She has, in fact, it's kind of cute. This is so sweet to me. I'll never forget this. Back in April, the very first podcaster that I ever spoke with was Everett. And Everett reached out to me, I think through email. And I thought at first I was like, this has got to be spam. Because I'm like, at the time I had like 3,000 subscribers. I'm like, how did he even know who I am? Right. I had made a video. It was right after the national religious broadcaster situation where Pastor Ray was escorted out, and it was a horrible situation and seemingly racist and just all that horrible stuff. So I made a whole video about that. And Everett he saw that video, reaches out, asked me if I would make a short video to encourage Pastor Ray and Laura Lynn. And I was like, yes, of course, sure. So we exchanged numbers, and I sent him the video, and I was calling my best friend. I'm like, you're never going to believe what just happened. It was crazy. I was so excited. I felt so honored. I was like, wow, yeah. And I was like, I told my friend, I was like, and we had planned to get together. I go, listen, I have to watch Everett's show. And so she's like, okay, well, we'll put it on. So she put it on her iPad, and she set it up, and she was so supportive, and it just meant so much to me. But anyways, we talk a lot about all of this, and this one I haven't even gotten a chance to tell her. But I tell her, listen, if like you and your man, who is also my friend, if you guys start trying to cover up SA of a child, I'm out. Right. We're done. I'm not friends with you.
That's right.
If you refuse to be investigated, I'm going to probably try to make sure that can happen. Like, we're done. And I would hope I would never do it, and neither would she. But it's just like, we're so close, and I love her and she loves me. And we've been best friends for over 20 years, at 22 years. My brother's 22. And that's when I met her, right before my brother was born. Aww. And so, yeah, we grew up together, and we still are very close, and she was my neighbor. And so, I can't imagine that would be so awful. Don't get me wrong. Would it be hard to cut my best friend off that I love and support and would do almost anything for? It would be awful. It would be horrific, but I am not going to stand for that. I don't know how people like Lance Walno and Joni and her cronies, I don't know how they justify standing up for PDF files and people who commit heinous crimes against women and children and young men and old. It doesn't matter how old you are, what your gender is. I don't care what your race is. To have a crime like that committed against you, and then people stick up for that, like Landon Schott and Heather Schott standing up for Michael Brown. That is so triggering to me, because I don't get it. Like, I can't imagine me saying, hey, I've been through XYZ, and sharing that and it getting out publicly, and then a pastor saying, hey, no, they're wrong. This is just the accuser of the brethren and the Jezebel report, all these crazy things. I don't understand it.
They don't even know. It's your story. It's what you went through, and they're calling you a liar. That's what Joseph Z is doing. That's what Lance Walno is doing. Michael Brown. I mean, the list can go on. Why do I forget? I mean, they're all doing it. They're the accusers of the brethren.
That's and Jimmy Evans and
Jimmy Evans, yeah.
Jimmy Evans is a wild one. Perry Stone.
Oh yes. Oh yes. So it's funny, just for your audience, but if I was Elizabeth age, I would you would be my best friend. So
Aw.
your best friend, it would be me. But I'm just kidding.
Jasmine's been dethroned. Oh boy.
It's just fun. So just for your audience, so Friday night, when you reached out, so Elizabeth, I'm just talking to your audience. So when Elizabeth reached out to me on Friday night about this, and she was like, this is fascinating. What do I need to do? And I was telling Elizabeth which videos to go through, do in this order. And so we're just like, Elizabeth is texting me, and this is about when you were going through the speed, and Elizabeth videotapes a video she's playing of me, but in slow speed. And it is so funny. We're both dying. I mean, my stomach's killing me. She's videotaping this. It sounds like I'm drunk. And I'm going, do Laura Lynn, do Laura Lynn. So that's Laura, and we're both dying. It was so funny.
Yeah, because I was watching it. Okay, so I had all these plans so the audience can have some context. I was watching another video that is unrelated. It's another podcaster, although her dad is in the church as well, and he is also a PDF file. What's his name? Alan. Alan's his first name. Oh, I can't think of his last name. Anyway, so maybe they'll know who her name's Alexandra Rodriguez, big YouTuber. So she has a podcast, so I had to watch that. And I was like, it was 45 minutes long. I still had to go through your videos, hadn't gotten through them all because of work. And I'm like, I got to get through Vanessa's, or I got to, so we could have our conversation. And I had already watched them, but I wanted to rewatch. And so I go to Alex's video and I speed it up, because I knew it was gonna be a bunch of nonsense, and I had to see the show. I had to see the nonsense show. You know what I'm saying? So when I go back to Vanessa's video, it was still on 2.0, like it was sped up by 2 times. So she's talking double fast. And I was like, let me slow it down. Obviously I don't want to do that. I want to watch it at normal speed. And I didn't realize you can actually click normal speed. It's literally says normal speed right there on your screen, like right there. And I didn't. There was like a bar where you could drag the dot, left or right, and left was slower. So I clicked where I thought normal speed was at. Well, that's where we got to the really slow speech, and it makes you sound super slurred. So next time you want a good laugh, just go to one of the podcasters' videos and click the little wheel icon down in the bottom right, click playback speed, and then you can adjust it and watch it faster or slower. And for your entertainment purposes, I recommend slow because it's hilarious. But if you need to speed it up because you're short on time,
right, you can do that.
2 times is good. Yeah. So, okay, Vanessa, is there anything else you would like to add about this that we didn't get to talk about, that you think is useful for people to know? And why is it, do you believe, that other people should know about this story and follow it?
Well, I think that it's important to see what's happening in the church. I don't think that, I've said this so many times on my channel, I don't believe that we're dealing with these coincidences. I believe that what we're seeing is all manner of either sin, bad behavior, abuse in the church, and the Lord is peeling back that veil, and we're getting these, glimpses, and then even more information, and then the facts, and then it's ongoing. And in his kindness, it's not like full throttle where we're just getting slammed with it. But these are things that have to be addressed, because in order to have a appropriate functioning church under the leadership of Christ, you have to remove any decadence, you have to remove any mixture, any evil, any of that sin. You have to remove it all. So I think across the board, we're seeing that, where there's all different types of things going on, and we're getting an idea of that, because in this church there's no allegation of SA, but we're dealing that in other areas. So we're getting glimpses of all kinds of manner of issues that are happening. And you do need to know what's going on in these churches, because the mainstream media, they're not going to address it. It's almost like the church is a redheaded stepchild, so to speak. I'm not using that against anybody. It's just that manner of speech. And I've even reached out to mainstream media for some of these cases. They just don't have any interest, because the funny thing is, what, like Joni Lamb and others, oh, we're the clickbait cockroaches. They're just trying to get clicks and likes. No, we're trying to shine a light on where God's showing us to shine a light on, because the mainstream media is not. And it is very important to understand what's happening in these churches. First off, to pray, right? We want to pray for those people, but we also want to see the debauchery, not for entertainment purposes, but to protect yourselves and your family and to see what's going on. And it's like getting your attention. There is something significantly wrong in these churches. And I'm not going to be a part of that church. Now, in this case that we're talking about today, it doesn't exist. So you're not going to go there. But Faith Life Church, I mean, I've made a lot of friends with people that go to that church, was a part of that church. They don't go there anymore. And I see their posts and they're reporting, oh, the attendance is down significantly. It's almost like 90%. We want to see that, where these places are so dangerous, where you have people in Faith Life Church that are still there giving their children little wristbands that say Team Tom. And this is after he has been indicted on 32 felony charges abusing children. And you've got children. Let's give our children these wristbands saying Team Tom. This is why we need education.
Absolutely. And I think too, it could be you just as easy. This could be a grandchild or a nephew or a niece or a sister or a brother. These are our brothers and sisters in Christ. This isn't a joke. This isn't entertaining. This isn't funny. These are real people with real lives, real victims, real survivors with real stories. And I look at how tied together large pastors are, and I'm not saying they're all bad, because I come from a large church background and I believe in my heart of hearts that the pastor of that church is a man of God. But he has in the past, not, I've not seen this recently, but they did have a guest speaker there just recently. They were part of the Marriage XO ministry, which, if you don't know, that was Jimmy Evans' ministry. And this couple, who I'm sure they're lovely. I'm sure I don't know, but they're part of Jimmy Evans' ministry. And I don't go to this church now, but the previous pastor that I went there, was also tied to Joel Osteen in the past, not now, but years ago. Met him, been in his church. They've done speaking engagements together. So, and that's just that church that I come from is on a much smaller scale, and they're still tied together. So it's like, if that's happening in a small mega church, is what I would consider it, how much more? Because I think of it this way too. All of us podcasters are tied together. I talk to you, and I talk to Everett, and I talk to the religion business, and but like, other people in our group don't talk to the religion business, but I talk to the religion business, and you guys talk to me. So then we're all tied together, and it's kind of like, well, if the religion business does something shady and Elizabeth doesn't renounce that, how do we know if we can trust Vanessa? Or if Vanessa's talking to, I don't know, you've talked to that dude. Oh my, I don't know his name. He goes to Faith Life Church. He's a TikToker. You have talked to him on Everett's channel.
Eric Venon?
Yes. If he does something crazy and he's like acting out of whack, which is hilarious, but if he were to do that, well, God forbid, I don't think so.
This is just an example, folks.
Yes, this is just an example. I'm not insinuating anything. It's just like, this is, the podcasters are YouTubers, whatever, content creators. We're a much smaller powerhouse than, like, I compare this mega church, NAR, all of that to like big tech, like Google, YouTube, all of the media that has absolute control over
Everything.
society. So that's how it is. They have complete control in our churches, whether you like it or not, whether you support them or not. In my opinion, in some small way, shape, or form, they have influenced your pastor or people in your church that you love and trust. So therefore, that's why this is so important to me and to all of us podcasters, because all of us, we all have a dog in this fight. I don't care what anyone says. That's just my opinion and my viewpoint. And that is why I have taken a step, and I have been looked at by people in my peers. I know what they think, and they're not on my side right now, but I'm willing to stand alone to protect them and their future children, because what I watch happen with Daystar and Perry Stone and Michael Brown, Landon Schott's a younger guy. He has influence over people my age, and that is not okay with me. Faith Life Church is in Columbus, Ohio. I am from Ohio. I spent many years training and dancing in Columbus, and I think about dancers that still live down there, that still go there, and the dance school, not the church. But what if they were to go to that church? It's in
Right.
the area. What, and they're looking for a church, and this family, they're, Irish dancers are very family oriented, very good people. Most of them are Catholic because it's Irish, but there are Christians, and I don't want them going to that church. I want them to know what's going on. I don't want one of those kids to get hurt. I love those dancers.
I know.
It's just, I care about people in my state. I'm from Ohio. Like, I love it. I love my state. I make Ohio vlogs. I used to do that. It's important to me, and it should be important to you. That's all I have to say about that.
And I think that we are a similar breed, the podcasters, we care. And it has to get to that point, because people do, they're like, why are you doing this? You know, I, I'm sure, just like you were saying, people are asking you. Well, I will stand alone as well, and when I came out this week and talked about what I talked about, I'm like, I'm okay to stand alone, because I stood alone when I uploaded my first video. I knew what the Lord wanted me to do, and I did it. So I'm fine with everything that I've done thus far. And in regard to the reporting on this, I don't have any regrets or anything. I think that what's going to happen is we're going to see where those pleadings take us, right? Because there's that motion that's hanging out there to dismiss, and then there's going to have to be a response, and then they're going to get into discovery. Could we see an amendment? Well, we could. I mean, I don't know where it's going to lead and take us. Oh, and we could also see a lawsuit against Michael Tate and Wes and Steve Campbell, because Wes is the owner, and then his son Steve was the manager. And there's been already articles by the Royce Report saying that there are people coming forward saying that they knew. So that was my belief, was that we were going to see those first. I mean, I had no idea that this was going on, but so that's something that we could possibly see coming up as well. And I don't know where it's going to take us. And I think that people are still reaching out to me. I can't get to everybody right away, right? And I'll be learning more and more, and is what I can share, I'll share.
I think what bothers me so much about this one in particular is the safety factor that you mentioned at the very beginning, and that people are afraid for their lives. And that should never, ever, ever happen in this country
Right.
with your religious beliefs, ever. You should not be going to church afraid for your life, or because of a church you went to, you're afraid of your life. I don't care what your faith background is. This is the United States of America. We have freedom of religion and freedom of speech, and those rights shouldn't be infringed upon, and that they very much are being infringed upon for all of these people in this case
Right.
that
Because
have gone to that church.
that's part of the action, because they were being harassed because they were trying to come together and have church in another place, and then they were being thwarted from doing that. That's their right to organize. These are constitutional rights that we have. So all of that is encompassed in this complaint. Amazing, isn't it?
It's so crazy. I am very much invested, and I look forward to justice for these victims. I really do, and for
For this
uh
family.
yeah, for the families involved. And we Vanessa and I prayed for them before we started recording. And I just want to ask you guys to pray as well, so that they have the spiritual backing and people standing in the gap for them that they need. And just like we prayed and pray still for justice for Jonathan and Susie's family, and for Tom Cassie's the survivors of his abuse. We pray for them. And now we pray for people, the Schrum family, and everybody else that was involved with their church. And it's so sad. My heart is heavy on a daily basis, and I have to continuously give it to God, because, and I think about our subscribers too, Vanessa, where they have horror stories, and that's why they come and they watch, because people find that they can relate, and that they can find healing through what's talked about and through things actually being brought to light, and their stories and similar stories not being dismissed. And it's just, I don't know. That's why I do what I do. And I think about our subscribers. And I think, like, sometimes, and I know that I need to deal with this with the Lord. So it's not something that I think is like biblical or anything, but I just have this heaviness, and I'll be like, why do I have this heaviness? And I think about the people, I think about the body of Christ and all the people that have been not just church hurt, not just offense. I'm not talking about your pastor didn't say hi to you at church, although that's rude and that's happened to me and irritates me. But your pastor or your favorite leader didn't say hi to you in the hallway. I'm talking about you guys have been, some of you, abused, and you have been done wrong. And God is not pleased with that. And justice will come for you. God is a redeemer of time, and he is your vindicator, and it doesn't happen when we think it's going to. And part of the thing about my podcast, I call it the By Faith podcast because of Hebrews chapter 11. And we have to trust God by faith, everything we do. And when you read Hebrews chapter 11 and it talks about Moses, Moses didn't see the promised land. So unfortunately, we may not see our justice for us on this side of eternity. But the good news is God is in control. God sees what's happening. God is not pleased because it talks about it in his word. And he is here for us. And he loves us with an everlasting love. And that means that his love for us never runs out. And so for people watching who might have been through trauma and you feel like you haven't seen that justice come to pass for you, I mean, I've even had it happen for me. And I feel like there's areas of my life where I've been done wrong, I've been abused, and I haven't seen justice come to pass. But
Right.
that doesn't mean God is done. And that doesn't mean that God hasn't seen you and that he's not going to take care of you. And he does take care of you, whether you know it or not. So I encourage you to talk with him about that. But thank you, Vanessa, so much for coming on and for sparing some time to educate everybody and bring your wisdom and your knowledge. Your perspective on everything going on in the body of Christ from a legal standpoint is just so interesting. And I love listening to you and your podcast. So you guys, if you're not already subscribed to Attorney Vanessa Johnson, I'm going to link her YouTube channel in the description below. And as well as I'm going to try to link the Roy's Report articles that we were discussing and the complaint of this case so that you guys can go read it and read it for yourselves, educate yourselves if you so choose to do choose to do. And thank you guys. Thank you, Vanessa, again. I appreciate you. And I'm just so thankful for you. Thank you for being my friend.
Thank you. I love being your friend. Thanks for
All right. Well, we will see you guys next time in the next episode of the By Faith podcast.
Bye.
Adios.